That's the thing about fear. You know, this book is about giving fear a chance, giving fear a minute, and saying, but not to say that we have to always accept the fear.
Right.
But let's sit with it and decide if we're going to give it a minute. Because maybe it has a message.
You're gonna wanna watch this impactful episode until the very end. But wait, before we hop into the show, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's hop into the video.
Welcome to the table, yeah. We gon' get real, we gon' get right. Oh, building up wealth, we gon' give life. Welcome to the table, yeah. Welcome to the table, build wealth, life. Welcome to the table.
So Farnoosh, man, my sister.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm great.
Man, listen here. I think it was what? Yeah, it's what? No, January.
Okay.
January is when we first met each other in person. We both did Live with Kelly and Ryan. You are a vet on Live with Kelly
And
Ryan.
as are you.
No, I'm still a baby.
They love you though.
They do. I go there every year now. You know what I'm saying? But you've been on there for years. Like you, I
Many different co-hosts.
Exactly.
Since Regis.
Yo,
Rest
listen,
in peace. Rest in power.
I've never met Regis. I never did a show with Regis. But I invited you on the show because you are one of the vets in the money space.
Thank you.
You know, I've watched a lot of your stuff and I learned a lot of stuff from you. And I was like, yo, I gotta have this sister on my show.
Thank you.
Because what you're doing is just phenomenal. And I want to expose my people to a lot of people that I believe are healthy in this space. And you have a great book coming out called A Healthy State of Panic. We're going to talk about it a little bit later, and we're going to also link it in today's show notes. But let's go back to the beginning. Farnoosh.
Yes, very good.
There you go.
Rolls off your tongue.
Yes, Farnoosh.
Some people just call me Noosh.
Noosh?
Yeah.
Nah,
No,
I'm do the
okay.
whole thing.
Do the whole thing.
Farnoosh. 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 That's not American. Where is that from?
It is Iranian.
Iranian.
But even in the Iranian culture, which sometimes people say Persian, I use them interchangeably, it's an unusual name. I've met like 3 Iranians in my entire life, male, female.
Okay, and are their names similar to like yours as far as in the difference of it? Like Farnoosh, that's definitely not American.
Nope.
Anthony is American.
It is. Yeah, no, it's funny. I joke that my parents just like made it up. You know, because
Absolutely.
like I was like, why? And I talk about in the book, it was such a pain. It was a pain point for me growing up because it was like no matter how much I tried to assimilate, couldn't help it. I tried to change my name.
You did?
Yeah, to Ashley, Nikki,
No.
Tina.
No.
My parents actually ended up changing their names.
They did?
Yeah, and my brother, and I'm 11 years older than him, so this will give this will tell you just how far my parents had sort of assimilated.
Okay.
Or like sort of bought into the culture is that, so I'm Farnoosh.
Okay.
My brother is Todd.
He's Todd?
Yeah. You can read all about it in the book, but
One of my close friends' name is Todd, and that's an American name.
I mean, it's
can-
like Barbie Ken name. I mean, it's
exactly.
like, he's like Ken's best friend, right?
Yo, that is so funny. So I'm curious. Let's talk a little bit about your background. Now, Iran, right?
Iran, yeah.
Were you born in Iran and then came over here?
I was almost born in Iran. My mother was pregnant in 1979 to 1980, during which time, if you know anything about Iranian culture, history, there was a big revolution breaking loose, tyrannical regime. It was like, I talk about it as sort of like, if you ever watch Aladdin, it's like when Jafar takes over and like dark clouds. And I mean, that's not to say like it's cartoonish at all, but it was terrifying. And my parents had been in the States for a bit. My dad was finishing up his postdoc. He was he's a physics phenom, and the plan was to go back to Iran. But as my mother was becoming more pregnant with me and the conditions overseas were getting darker and darker and grimmer, they really, like, fear helped them stay boots on the ground in America to just find a way to stay. It was really hard, you know, because once you're done with school here as an immigrant, unless you find a job,
you have to go
you
back.
got to go back. And it was a really tense time for Iranians to be in America because the political tensions were really high. But my father said there was one guy who gave him a job, and that job turned into another job, and And he says, sometimes in life you just need that one person
Yeah.
to believe in you, because he got rejected left and right, trying to get a job. And he's very good at what he does. It would have been great for him to, contribute anywhere, but one person. And Dr. ONeal, if you're watching, he became a legend in my family.
Did he?
This man who basically, I never met him, but
Wow.
changed the trajectory of my life, my parents' life.
I think that's powerful. I think it's powerful that you even know his name.
Yeah, my father would speak his name often. I think he was a mentor of his at the university and had some connections in the workforce, and vouched for my dad and ultimately got him secure and got him a job. I think I met him once when I was a little girl. We used to joke, he used to wear his pants up to his chest, belt, just a really just jolly guy.
Wow.
And it's crazy. My father and mother used to tell me, when I was a little girl, you will learn one day just how lucky you are. Luck has played a huge role in my life. And I think it's important for people to acknowledge luck, because it can go both ways, that you don't just pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah.
My parents had a lot of determination.
Yeah.
I inherited that, but also, let's just be honest, the stars aligned for me somehow, somewhat, for some reason, and I got to be grateful for that.
Man, listen, Farnoosh, that's just an amazing story, just to hear how your parents came over here, adapted to the culture, got fearful, stayed here so they wouldn't go back. I'm curious, have you and your parents ever talked about what would have happened with you all if you would have went back?
Oh my gosh. Well, I can see it, Anthony, because I have cousins who still live in Iran, who never were, girl cousins, women cousins, who never were able to do what I'm doing. I mean, here I am in America. I run a business. I went to graduate school. I married for love. First of all, that alone. I mean, just marrying for someone,
love?
For love, someone who wasn't had to give me economic security.
Got you.
You know what I mean? Because when
you.
you're a young woman in a country where they don't value your ability to rise through the ranks and get educated and get a job, a lot of those women maybe leave and they get educated here or in Europe. But for those by and large who stay in the country, they're dependent
on another
man or their fathers. And that seems so antiquated to us, but it is the modern life there.
Wow. Is it hard to get from there to here now?
People come and go, but it is, it's hard. And, I think people definitely do visit, but like any other, person visiting in a foreign country, you have to leave eventually. The only reason you could stay maybe is if you get a college says, hey, come here, study here. I've had cousins who live in Kuwait, for example, study here and then go back. So it's possible, but you need to have someone in the U.S. vouch for you.
Gotcha. I got you. Okay. Okay. So you're raised an American. Your parents are immigrants. I'm curious a little bit because I really want to dive into your book, because as I was reading through it a little bit when you got here, I was like, oh, wait, this is going to be a good conversation about this book. This book is needed because I want to talk about one of my favorite things that you talk about, how to really embrace that just happened to me in June. And I'm like, man, I'm excited. But I'm curious about the culture shift. How was it raising up in America from overseas culture? What were some things that you all had to adapt and adjust that is now, you have kids?
I have 2 young kids.
You have kids. So your kids are probably experiencing something different from you.
Right.
But I'm curious, what are some culture things your parents had to shift in America that they would not have had to shift from over there?
Well, rejection first, I mean, excuse me.
Yeah.
I opened the book with the fear of rejection. I cover 9 different fears in the book. The fear of rejection is something that starts young, I think. And especially for kids who are othered, whether it's because you were another race, another religion, another culture from where you are in your community. And I grew up in Worcester, Massachusetts, which then and still largely white, largely Christian, largely Italian, Irish, And then I remember in 3rd grade we had Where Are You From Day, and I was terrified to get up and say that I was Iranian. So I told everyone I was Italian. And I sat down, and everybody else, like my friend Nicole's parents were from France, she brought croissants. I was like, I got nothing. I'm an Italian. Next. I just didn't, I was terrified about the rejection. And I know when you're young, that can feel like the end of the world for you. And as adults, we kind of like, we have more agency, like we can brush it off. But it's still tough. And I think that for me, if I was in Iran, there would have been other hardships, but at least I wouldn't have felt disconnected from the culture. I wouldn't have wanted to change my name. I wouldn't have wanted to make myself small.
Wow.
And my parents, remember when they would pick me up or speak in Farsi to me, I would just get, so embarrassed. My dad in his, beat up Celica coming to get me with his Iranian music blasting. I'm like, please, God, I just want to be a blonde, blue-eyed, dimpled girl named Ashley. Can that happen for me? Why, God, why?
Wow.
But, more seriously, I think, and this is actually, I think, a benefit to being raised in my family with my background in America, is that we talked about money, the good and the bad.
Okay.
I say in the book, there's a whole central chapter, the fear of money, because when we talk about money, we're talking about life.
Yep.
When we're afraid of money, we're also afraid of rejection and loneliness and all the things. So the fear of money is like a central chapter to the book. And I say, like a lot of visceral fears, it has its own sort of like taste, sound. For me, the sound of the fear of money is fists banging on laminate kitchen tables growing up in my house, because my parents had fiery conversations and arguments around money. And they exposed me to that because I was an only child and we lived in a small house and I had nowhere to go and no one to play with. And so I just would watch them fight, but also reconcile. And I think that's the key. Look, we're all going to have disagreements around money with our friends, with our family, with our partners, with our kids. And if there's somebody watching, chiefly maybe your children, because a lot of times people go, how can I raise money savvy kids? Like, it's not about protecting them from the truth. It's about showing them the truth, but then showing them that you have a plan, showing them how you resolve it. My parents wouldn't talk to each other for about 2 weeks, but then they would come around and sometimes involve me. As I got older, my mother would use me as almost like an ambassador in the house. Can you go talk to your dad about why he won't give me passwords to the bank accounts? I need them. With tears in her eyes. I said, okay, all right, what? I gotta do this now? I'm 21 years old. I got my own problems. Now I gotta come home for spring break and deal with this? And so I would, and I learned then that love is greater than fear. I was afraid of how my dad would react. I was afraid of, the embarrassment, the humility, all of it. But I was like, I'm also more afraid of my mother being vulnerable. And I'm going to help her out because I love her so much. And my dad did come around. And I'm very proud of the ability that I was able to do that for them. But all this to say that money for us in our family was not taboo. It's not to say that it was a clean topic or that it was always happy, always rosy. To the contrary, but witnessing all of their trials and tribulations with that transparency, it has made me who I am. I'm the person who decided I'm not going to get into a relationship dependent on anybody. That, I'm going to take care of myself first and foremost so that I can end up in a relationship with the freedom to choose who I want to be with because I just love them. Can you imagine? Can you imagine just being with someone because you just love them so much? And they support you, and there's all, marriage is complex, but, I just saw how my mom struggled so hard. And not just her, but all of her peers, her female peers, to this day. She'll call me and say, my friend suddenly became widowed, 3 kids, doesn't know how to pay the mortgage, doesn't even know where the life insurance is there life insurance? And I go, wow, it's 2023 and this is still happening in modern times, And we know all the things and we don't do all the things.
It's so funny you talk about the fear of money and the conversation. I think in my raising, the fear of money prevented us from talking about money. It was, I think the only thing, I'm Christian and my family my parents are preachers, and the only thing we talked about money, Farnoosh, was just give God his 10%. But not how to start a business, not how to open up a investment account, not the importance of a 401k or a Roth IRA. not even will conversations, not even entrepreneurship conversations. But I think the fear was, hey, we're not doing that good with money, so how can we even talk about it? And I think sometimes that is a problem in America today, is that the conversation of money is not being had at home. But you're saying that you all had the good and the bad conversations. And I think that's healthy. Quick pause from today's show. You see, life is a roller coaster of highs and lows. You see, when we're soaring, we're on top of the world, when we're winning, it feels like we can conquer and challenge anything that comes our way. Like we could win, but let's be honest. When we're going through tough times, when we're navigating through a storm, it can be overwhelming, it can be depressive, and it could be hindering our ability to be the best version of ourselves. You see, over the last 2-3 years, I've learned the transformative power of therapy. You see, collaborating with a therapist can equip you and I with the insights and strategies to empower ourselves, helping us to face life hurdles with newfound confidence and power behind us. I want you to consider therapy. And while you're considering therapy, I want you to consider my friends over at BetterHelp, a top-tier online therapy platform known for its accessibility, adaptability, and affordability. I call it the 3 A's. You see, by filling out a concise questionnaire, you will be connected with a licensed therapist who resonates with your unique needs. The key word there was your unique needs. Moreover, the flexibility of changing a therapist if it's not working out for you is easy with BetterHelp, and you can do this at any time because we want you to find the best therapist that's going to help you progress and move forward in life. Investing in our mental health is a step towards a more enriching life. Investing into therapy is a step towards you building long-lasting wealth. And to facilitate this, you can get 10% off your first month by visiting anthonyoneal.com/therapy. Again, that is anthonyoneal.com/therapy, or you can click the link in today's show notes. But the key thing here before we get back to today's show, start your journey towards self-empowerment today. And let's together resume our path to personal growth. Let's get back to the show.
And I'll tell you what, when I think about your family, that's such a common story, and it's still prevalent. We don't talk about money because I think when we are talking about money, it's very personal.
It is.
It's very personal, and it suggests things about us that we don't want to face, our pasts. So I say, if you're afraid of money, and there are different flavors of that, you know, people are afraid for various reasons, because maybe they're afraid of talking about money with their kids or their partner because they're worried about what it's going to reveal about themselves, or it might elicit a fight. They're afraid that they're going to lose money because maybe they saw that growing up as a kid. Their parents went bankrupt or what have you. Or they even recently themselves in the recession or in a stock market crash lost money. So I get it. We have these fears, but I think the first question you want to ask your fear of money is, how did you get here? Really, like who brought you here? How did you arrive? Did you come in a nice Uber, or were you like, did you hijack? Did you parachute into my house unwelcome?
Right.
Because that's the thing about fear. You know, this book is about giving fear a chance, giving fear a minute, and saying, but not to say that we have to always accept the fear.
Right.
But let's sit with it and decide if we're going to give it a minute. Because maybe it has a message. And so I think that money is just a tool. I think you would agree.
Absolutely.
We give money too much power sometimes to think that it's like it is dominating us when we're in charge, we're in control. It's just this piece of paper, or digital even now. It's not even tangible. And so the first question you got to ask yourself is like, how did I inherit this fear? And I mean, for me, I grew up, I became this woman who was very independent, feminist.
Okay.
But there was a part of me, I'm going to be very honest, that was afraid to make too much money.
Oh.
You know?
Really?
Because I thought that it would come at a price.
What price was that?
I would become a worse mom. I wouldn't have time for my kids. I wouldn't have time for my important relationships, that people would judge me. Like, I don't know, it's so funny because I wrote a book about female breadwinners and how it's important to, you know, embrace that and celebrate that. But deep down, secretly, I was still battling with, and I was doing well, don't get me wrong, I was like supporting our family, happy in my career, but I would look around and go, wow, that person's making like lot more money. And then I thought, well, could I? And I said, no. My priorities need to be figured out. Like, that's too much. That's too much for me. And I was talking to this money coach, and she was like, where did that fear come from, Farnoosh? That was I said, well, I just feel like I see around me when people become too financially focused, too much focused on getting more money, that things start to crumble around them.
Yes.
Like, I wasn't trustful
Yes.
that I could double my income, which was already a good income, without sacrificing things that were important to me. So I just said, no, that's not for me. And she said, what are you really, like, she said to me, don't you want to be powerful? I said, ew, no, I don't want to be powerful. That's a gross, like, I feel like that was like, no. She's like, why? Okay, let's unpack that.
Wow.
Why is the word power so disgusting to you?
Wow.
I said, well, because when I think of power, I get all these narratives, right? Where do they effing come from? She's like, I'm like, well, because when I think of power, I think of like the oil tycoon at the top of the tower stealing money from the little people. It's a very masculine energy, and it's not aligned with me. And she goes, that's one definition of power.
Ooh.
You're using the like MGM, Disney Studios definition of power, the Hollywood definition of power, the hustle culture use of power. But like, there's power to uplift, there's power to support, there's power to be in service.
Yes.
You can use this power in beautiful ways, find that way.
Yeah.
And when you find your why for that power, you will want the money. I said, yeah, I do want to be powerful in my community. I want to be able to give back. I want to be able to leave a financial legacy. All that is powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I think what I was missing was a real desire and powerful why behind wanting to make the money. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, I was still afraid that I was gonna, all right, now I was lacking the motivation. Now I have the motivation, but I'm still afraid.
Okay.
I'm still afraid that okay, great, yeah, I'm gonna make more money because it'll be great for everybody in my community, but how do I do it? How do I do it that I don't, stop seeing my family? And I said, I got to start working harder and smart, not just harder, but smarter.
Yeah.
So I hired an assistant.
Okay.
I invested in myself and my business, which I was, it's hard in the beginning because you're like, will the ROI be there? But it was.
Who you telling?
Step number one.
Yeah.
Step number two. Well, why that was important? Because she would do all the administrative things, and I could think big picture, establish more relationships, play that long game.
Yes.
Step number two, I just raised my prices. Try it. I dare you.
People are fearful to raise their prices because they're fearful of what people would say about them if they raise their prices.
But you know what? The best advice I ever got around negotiating is if you aren't even a little afraid of asking for the money, you're not doing it right. This happened to me this week, Anthony. A company came to me and they said, okay, we'd like to book you for a keynote and buy some books. What's your price? And normally I would just give them my price, which has been the price for the last 10 years. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go a little, I'm going to phone a friend.
Yeah.
I'm going to phone a friend. I call a friend, Tiffany Aliche.
Okay.
Budgetnista. I said, Tiffany, what do I do? I want to say this, but I feel like there might be room for more. What's been your experience? And she just called me. She said, you need to, she asked me to ask for 50% more.
Ooh.
And I said, that's terrifying. I was like, I have never asked for that much money for a keynote.
Yeah.
She goes, but you know what? They're paying it.
Absolutely.
They're paying it to other people that I know that are equally as successful and accomplished as you, just as far-reaching. Try it. And let them know there's room for negotiation, but start there. And I said, okay. And I got it. So listen, if you ever doubt
that money,
raising your 50%, I phoned a friend and she told me to raise it. And I've been in this business for a long time. I should know better, but I would have been happy with the other amount. That was a good amount. But this, I'm like, this is this changed the game.
Yes.
Because now I'm like, this is my new fee.
Yeah.
And all this to say that I was afraid of trying to make more money because I had a false narrative around what that would mean. The fear was rooted in a false narrative that making more money means sacrificing your time. No, it doesn't. It just means realizing, I knew I wanted to protect my time.
Yeah.
So that's what the fear was telling me to do. So then the fear was like, whatever you end up doing to make more money, make sure that you prioritize your time.
Wow. That's it.
And that's it. That was the framework.
Yeah.
And I do these things not knowing I'm being conscious about a framework until I'm like writing the book and I'm like, how did I do that thing? And that's the wisdom that I want to give people, because when we're talking about money, the underpinning emotion is fear. If we can get to that underpinning emotion, the decisions get a lot easier, Anthony. They just do. Because when you listen to your fears, what are you actually doing? You are listening to yourself. You are turning inward as opposed to looking everywhere else for answers, which can keep you stuck. It can lead you to dead ends. It can lead to regret. I've done it all. I've done all those mistakes. But I've slowly learned how to be a better communicator with my fear.
Yeah.
And I think it's just accessible to all of us. This is not a book about how to get richer by working harder. It's about how to just tap into what you already have to make the better decisions. And if I, like you, am all about financial equity, like what is the more equitable resource than fear? We are terrified 24/7. We are very familiar with fear.
Yo, man, Farnoosh, I'm loving this conversation. Y'all, Farnoosh has a book coming out. It's actually on pre-sale now. It comes out October 3rd. And I'm really excited about this. The name of the book is called A Healthy State of Panic. Follow Your Fears to Build Wealth. Come on now, Farnoosh. Crush your career and win at life. And so we're going to drop this book in today's show notes. Please get your copy. Please support it. We need to help her become a New York Times bestseller.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, all these Johns at the top of this. By the way, this week, a book with my literary agent sends me all the like New York Times winners and like how many books they sold.
Yeah.
Someone this week sold over 112,000 copies well, the way it works, little insider baseball, is that all the pre-sales and that first week that your book is out counts as week one.
Yes.
But I need to I want to call an investigation. I mean, you should see the other amounts of books.
It's like what, like
it was like
5,000,
6,000, 1,100, and then this person with their 116,000. I don't know.
Listen, I believe it, Farnoosh. You know, my mentor and friend Dave Ramsey, man, he'll sell 80,000 books, but they won't give him New York Times.
It's you know what you have to remember is that it's editorialized. They
is.
like who they like.
It is.
And I'm not going to be mad about it if they put me on the list.
Yeah.
But
I'm not gonna be bad neither when my book come out.
You know, let's get some more people of color, people of different backgrounds on that dang list.
You know, give me some love.
I mean,
thank you, people of color.
Or you know what? Retire, put everybody else in a hall of fame.
Come on.
This
now.
one man has been at the top of the list, more or less, for the last year and a half.
Absolutely. I know
you all know who it is. I'm sorry. Can we just put him into a hall of fame?
You are a bestseller forever.
Right. Like, throw him a party.
Listen.
Red carpet.
Let's do it. But you can no longer make the list with this book.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's the same book that's been out. Well,
and by the way, people buy their own books.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
I'm not going to say that.
I didn't say that out loud.
I'm not going to say nothing. Oh, Lord Jesus. But you know what? Hey, Farnoosh, January. What kind of fear would you call this? I'm going to put myself on blast.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people look at us and they feel like, okay, man, they got it. They're successful. They're on live with Kelly and Ron. They don't have no fears.
Oh, please.
And the devil is a lie. You know, it's like I get fearful. And I'll be vulnerable in in June. I signed an agreement to get a brand new building. It's about 5,000 square feet.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So me and my team can move into a building. And then also I'm creating this building to where other creators and influencers who may not have my level of resources can come in and get my level of execution. You know, and so that's a little plug. That's coming soon.
Sign me up.
Yeah, in the DC area. And so we're going to have, 2 studios built in there, podcast rooms, webinar rooms, right?
Wow.
But that bill is expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, I'm talking about 5 digits a month. And I felt this level of fear just drop on me. Because this is like...
I'm scared for you.
See, you know what I'm saying? So I got 5 figures there on top of the 5 figures that I have to pay out every single month for payroll, business expenses, and then add that on to it. And that's a 5-year commitment that I have to stick to. So that's a 6-figure situation that I've locked myself into. And I felt this level of fear. And I called my mentors. Man, I called one of them. I felt like I was having a panic attack. I was like, what am I doing? Like, man, I need to get out. I called my realtors and I was like, man, I got to get out.
You got to call me next time. Right?
I'm going to call you and I'm going to call Tiffany.
Yeah.
You know, and I had some issues going on with my family at the same time, some health issues, and I was scared. I was like, yo, I may have to go home. I may have to move. So all this stuff hit me. And then my mentor was like, well, if you wasn't fearful, I would be concerned if you wasn't.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure. Talk to me.
What's been the strategy since January? Since January, you had that episode. And then what came out of that?
I mean, I just came out of it and said, man, this is honestly going to be a benefit to me and to the people in D.C. and the DMV area.
Right.
And we were like, hey, we're going to help a lot more people because we will be able to do a lot more stuff as a team. And then 2, we're going to help other influencers like yourself and other people get their message out who are maybe new to the business. And so I'm just like, hey, the strategy is we're going to get in there. I'm just going to take it. I'm still a little fearful because I don't know if it's going to work.
Right.
I believe it's going to work because I know anything that I touch, I'm going to work hard at it. But it's still part of me is like, hey, I'm going to get in there and give it my best. But I also know that my best needs a great team. And so it's like, it's not just on me. I got to work.
I mean, you're living the healthy state of panic
Yes.
life. I think what I'm hearing from your story is 2 types of fear were prevalent. Fear of uncertainty.
Yes.
Fear of failure.
Yes, that's it.
Fear of endings as well, which is a chapter in the book, which is really about when things come, you're afraid of something coming to an end and having regret.
Yeah.
So like if this project didn't come out to fruition, yes, there's that failure, but there's also like that regret. That we don't want to feel.
Yeah.
But I think how you engineered it, how you thought about, like, that's why I asked, like, what happened next, was because you kind of did the things. I say with the fear of uncertainty, uncertainty is basically the only certain thing in life. Okay, we accept that.
Right.
So when the fear shows up, it's not asking you to try to decode the uncertainty. It's asking you to figure out what is certain and focus on that.
So good.
You know, like, I'm hearing from you that you realized that, you don't know how the money might be coming in or will people be into it, but you know yourself, you know your track record, you know your team, you know the books. And so that's what you're going to focus on, and that helps to alleviate some of the fear. But the failure part of it, the fear of failure, sometimes we fear failure because we're measuring the wrong kind of success.
Ooh, break that down.
Okay, so you go into a project and you have already, like, in your mind a vision for it, that this is what would mean success for you. But then you start to fear failure because maybe that success, that definition of success, is a little off. Like it's someone else's vision, or it's an objectively great outcome and you bought into it, but something inside you saying, you know what, I think, like, I'm not going to meet that expectation because it's not really who I am. But what I hear you did was you said you basically pivoted, or at least went back to the core of what this project is really about, which is community. Whereas you were maybe focusing too much on the finances.
I was.
And of course that's a measure of success, but is it all that matters?
No.
Principally, it is the community that you're building and the impact that you're making, which you know you can control, that you have a good track record at doing, that the people will come for Anthony. And that is what I think is the better success and is the more aligned success for you, because it's like actually who you are and what you can provide. It's what you can control. So then when the fear of uncertainty shows up and the fear of failure shows up, it's asking you to just kind of like look inward. With uncertainty, what can I control? What are the resources that I have? Not just money, but like my community, my people, my experiences, my ambition. No one can take that away from you. That is not uncertain.
Facts.
Fear of failure, I get it, we all have it, but sometimes it's because we are focusing on the wrong goalpost. We got to redirect and go, oh yeah, that's more me. That's actually what I want to do. I will not fail at that because I've never failed at that. You know? I was in a job once and I almost got fired. Oh man, it was over the dumbest thing looking back. But in the moment, it was just heartbreaking. I was 23 years old. I was at Money Magazine. I think I was even younger. I think I was like 22, 21. I wrote an article for the magazine. This is back when magazines, people actually like read them. It was like a big deal. They paid good salaries to the staff. And I wrote an article about dollar stores. And there was a mistake in the article, Anthony. It came out and it said, you know, the line was like, dollar stores where everything is $1. Well, not everything's $1 at the dollar store, y'all. Sometimes it's $5.
Right.
And so the magazine is printed. It's sitting in dentist office everywhere. Like, and my boss calls me in that morning. He's like, I got to talk to you about your article. I said, well, what's wrong? Yes, let's talk about my article. And he said, it's not good. He said, you know, and he read the line to me, and I said, mm-hmm. He goes, well, are all dollar stores $1? I said, no, but most are. He goes, well, you didn't say most.
Most. You said
You
all.
said all. Which, I mean, I can't dispute that.
Right.
That's
right.
a fact. And I walked out, and then on the way back to my walk of shame, back to my cubicle, another manager pulls me in, Michael, and he said, you know, I heard what happened, and just, you know, like, if it happens again, you're done. I just started there. I have a graduate degree from Columbia Journalism School. Like, I can't go back home because of this.
Right.
This isn't even a scandal, you know? Like, at least I want to go down in flames, make a name for myself, but this was not how I was, like, gonna go down. And I realized there that sometimes failure is not working in a bubble. Mm-hmm. I was set up to fail there. I take accountability for that mistake, but you know what? Several people read that article too. I was actually a fact checker on the magazine staff at the time, and I was responsible for finding everybody else's mistakes, but there was no backstop for me. Who's below me? I'm it.
Yeah.
So it was just me and only me working on my stuff. There was no team, there was no support, there was no mentoring, there was no forgiving. And, you know, when you're in your early 20s, that's more important than a paycheck sometimes.
Absolutely.
To be somewhere where they believe in you and they understand mistakes are going to happen. And then, you know, again, accountability is important. I'm not saying, like, go through life, oh, it's not my fault. But when I called my mother crying in Midtown that morning, because I thought, okay, I'm getting canned, I told her the story, and she said, Mara, which means those idiots. And I was like, Mom, did you not hear the story? I'm the idiot.
Right.
I'm the idiot in this story. She goes, no. Didn't anybody else check your stuff? Like, I don't understand where you're working, that this could even happen.
Wow.
You're one person. You're working for a national magazine. They don't have resources to just, really?
Right.
I said, yeah. And I thought to myself, you know, I thought working here was going to be the epitome of success.
Yeah.
And truly, it is an honor. It was a privilege. Not everybody could be where I was. But I recognized that I had fallen prey to this ideal of success, which was like, you get to this magazine, you're in New York. A lot of the editors there were making great salaries. They were supporting their kids through private school. I thought, this is it for me. But was it? That moment was so much like a breakthrough for me. I was like, well, first of all, not all of this was my fault. But second of all, I think that I need to change my goalpost. Because here I'm setting myself up for failure. I am not being set up for success. So if I fear failure, it's for a reason. Because my gut's telling me, look around. Do these people have your back? Doesn't feel like it, doesn't seem like it. So maybe you need to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then I did months later. But I didn't go down in flames. I made sure that I cleaned up my act before I left. I wanted to leave with good relationships, with a good reputation. The next article that crossed my desk that I had to fact check, I found 18 mistakes, maybe 20. I said, you know, everyone's making mistakes around me. Why am I the only one who's getting a threat to be called? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I do that, and the editor-in-chief calls me in and says, puts up the article that I had drafted, the draft of the article with all my red lines. It was somebody else's article, and they were like, I thought they were going to say, like, you missed something, you know, like, gotcha.
Right.
And they said, great job.
Wow.
And the writer was sitting in the room with me, and she was like, thank you so much for catching all those mistakes.
Wow.
I was like, yeah, that's what I do. Too bad y'all don't do that for me around here.
Exactly.
So I appreciate you, love you, bye.
Yeah.
You know, and when my last day, my boss came and said, were you not happy here? I said, you know, I was, and I'm grateful, but I'm just ready. I'm ready for something else. You got to always keep it elegant.
Yeah.
Just keep it elegant.
Facts.
And I went back to money years later as a contributing editor. Like, not everything has to be a dead end.
Absolutely.
Even a failure can just be an opening to something else. And then you go back to that time with more of an understanding of who you are and what you want.
No, that's totally facts. Man, that's so good. I want to ask you this question as we come to the end of the show. A lot of people who watch me, right, they are fearful of investing into the stock market.
Oh, yes.
They're fearful to get a will or an estate plan because they're fearful to talk about their death after life.
Yep.
Why is that a fear that we should kind of dive into? Because I believe that fear is preventing us from building wealth. That fear is preventing us from really taking care of our loved ones. I have people who are even fearful of getting life insurance because they're like, well, why do I want life insurance? Like, I'm still alive.
Yeah.
Like, these people are fearful of the basic stuff in life, but I believe it's preventing a lot of us. Yes, you all. I'm talking to y'all right here. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like I feel as if they're fearful of seeing the truth. And all, like, when it comes to like the will and estate plan, and me and you were on live with Kelly and Ryan, and we was talking about retirement. We was talking about wills and estates on that day. And it's like I feel as if they're fearful to talk about that. And I believe that fear is hurting their loved ones. But then fearful of investing into the stock market is fear that's preventing them from retiring well, which you have been talking a lot on your content about that. What should we do with that fear?
Yeah, I love this question because I've been afraid of the stock market. I've been afraid of talking about money with loved ones. I've been I'm doing my will now again, and it's it's not a walk in the park.
It's not.
You know what I mean?
It's
like
not.
Okay, we're talking about this. We're gonna think about dying.
Yeah.
Okay, but I always say to people, when you're afraid of something in your financial life today, and you're choosing to not do the thing or ignore it, which is what fear sometimes initially feels like it wants us to do. It wants us to stop, drop, and roll. It wants us to fear, flight, whatever, freeze. I say, I want to raise that fear to another fear that's even scarier. Because this fear that you're feeling right now, it's not motivating you to do anything healthy. What is the fear that is related to this that would make you actually go, okay, I need to invest. I need to do the will. And I would say it's about extrapolating into the future. If you sit with this fear and do nothing, what is the scarier thing waiting for you down the road? Envision it, go to the dark place. Every time I've done this in my own life, Anthony, it has I'm like a rocket ship. I go and do the thing because investing, for example, you're afraid of investing. I get it. It's volatile, ups, downs. It's high stakes.
Yeah.
But if you don't invest and you just put your money in a 0.01% savings account or under the mattress or whatever people are doing, in 25 years, I'm going to show you the math.
Talk about it.
25 years, you're going to have this versus this.
Talk
this
about it.
versus this.
Yes.
And if you come into retirement realizing, I can't retire, or I got to call up my kids now.
Ooh.
Isn't that terrifying?
That is scarier.
That's scarier than a little bit of volatility, which is actually what stocks do to be able to grow.
Come on.
So that's investing. I say, think about your future. If you don't invest, what's the scarier thing awaiting you? Because that's usually the more terrifying portrait of your life that would hopefully give you the impetus to go do something about it. And you can just start small, just start with $10 a day, whatever you can do. Open up the 401k. And then with regards to the wills and the estates, death is terrifying, but I also think it's what keeps me going. To know that I could die. It makes me want to live. The fear of death is probably one of the most powerful fears. It is the rumble, as the one quote says, that keeps us alive and doing and thinking and putting one foot in front of the other. If you think about, if I don't have a will and I die, or if I don't have life insurance and I die, what does that mean for my family? That's terrifying. Yeah. I've seen it. I've seen families scramble and become, well, that is not the legacy. Is that the legacy you want to leave your family? You worked so hard. Why wouldn't you want to protect that? And I get it. It's scary now. but there's something far scarier waiting for you. So your job is to imagine that far scarier thing. I say in the book, I say, go to the dark place, the scariest what ifs. It's not because I want to, I'm not a masochist, I promise. I'm not trying to make you scared just to be scared. It's because fear motivates. But you gotta find the right fear. Because what you're afraid of right now is just keeping you stuck.
Yeah.
Oh, investing's scary. Yeah. But let me give you, like, sit with me. I'll tell you what's scarier.
Man, listen, you speaking good. It's you know, Aretha Franklin passed, and we watched her family, you know, struggle and scramble through some of the things because, unfortunately, she didn't have the proper estate plan put into place. And I remember when I was sitting down with one of my mentors, was like, "Hey, Anthony, you've built this wealth rather quickly, and you know, do you have a will?" I was like, "Yeah, I got a will. I had a will ever since, you know, a few years ago." I was like, "All right, cool. Do you have an estate plan?" I was like, "An estate plan? What do you need an estate plan for?" "Well, you need a trust." I'm like, "A trust? Yeah, you need a power of attorney. Power of attorney for what?" For who? For what? I ain't got no kids, I got no family. Because that's the point. You have a family, but you don't have nothing to where you've worked hard for all this stuff that you own. Don't turn it over to the state and then now have your family fighting each other for your assets because you were scared to put it on paper. And, you know, me being a Christian, it's like, I believe that I'll be in heaven and I don't want to look down and see my loved ones, my sister, my brother, I have 4 parents. I have 2 biological parents and 2 other parents. And I don't like the term step, so I call them other parents. And I don't want them saying, "Well, Anthony would have want this, Anthony would have want that." Now they're arguing and I'm gone. And I'm like, that's scary to me that I was so selfish when I was alive that I didn't think about them if life was to happen after me. And I don't want my family doing that. Listen, Martin Luther King, everyone knows his story. His children fought each other because he didn't have the proper stuff put into place. And that went on for years, you know, and that's sad. And I'm like, man. So this book, Farnoosh, is needed because I believe that if we can get over certain fears, and what I like about this book is you don't just say, "Hey, here's the fear," and get over it. You walk us through practical ways, practical questions, practical strategies on how to use that fear to help us build wealth and to help us crush our careers. And I'm curious, last question for you. What made you write this book? What was the key thing?
Oh my gosh. So this book started as me wanting to share some wild adventures of growing up the daughter of Iranian immigrants in Worcester, Massachusetts. Worcester, for all you from Worcester. And as I'm writing, and you know, I've been in personal finance for 20 years at this point. I'm ready for something creative and fresh and maybe narrative and memoir-y. But who cares about my life, right? So I'm writing these stories and I realize there is a clear pattern in all of these stories and it has to do with fear.
Yeah.
So as I'm telling these little stories, there is this bigger story about fear. It's constantly showing up. And thankfully, my editor said to me, you know, I think that stories are wonderful. You're a great storyteller, but I think that your audience expects a level of advice. They want advice from you. They've been listening to you forever. Like, give them something constructive.
Absolutely.
Not just fun stories or funny stories that inspire. And she said, I think that the big idea and what the sort of counterculture idea that you have, which is exciting, is that fear can be a superpower.
Yes.
And using those illustrative stories, the humor, the failures, the sloppiness and the messiness of growing up, as how you bring this big idea to life.
Yeah.
You know, fear is taboo. We don't want to talk about it. This book is hopefully going to get us to like just be okay with it.
Yeah.
You know, fear needs a rebrand.
Yeah, it does.
It does, and we owe it to ourselves.
Yeah, man. Listen, it's Farnoosh. I said it right.
Farnoosh.
Farnoosh.
My track coach in high school used to.
You ran track? What did you run?
I tried. Oh man, they tried everything with me. I was like, I just wanted to be a part of it. I so wanted to be a part of something that was bigger than me growing up. Always.
Okay.
So I was in theater and I failed at sports, but I always tried. I love to fail at tennis and track and running.
Okay,
I think
okay.
you should find something you fail at and keep doing it. It's something. There's something there. But track for
That's me.
I tried the 1600, the 400. Then they were like, we're just going to give you long jump because and then finally I just became the snack girl because I could not
That is hilarious.
finish anything in track. I would just, I remember my first meet, I threw up. My coach said, welcome to the team. I said, this is not how I like to do things.
That is hilarious.
I don't like to get messy.
Wow.
So then I just did theater.
Man.
Yeah.
Yo, listen, man. Hey, you guys, we are going to drop Farnoosh books, her book link in today's show notes. Definitely, please go and buy one for a friend. And share today's episode with someone because this is a very unique conversation that I really do believe that if we can, one, use our fears in a healthy way, it will help us elevate to the next level and to the next destination within our lives and within our success journeys. And so this is a book that I want to highly encourage you all to get. Get it for yourself, read. If you want the audio version, get the audio version. Get whatever you need to get so you can get the information. Remember, we perish for the lack of knowledge and lack of wisdom. And Farnoosh is a queen in this business. She has years of experience over me. And there's nothing like having a veteran at the table, having a real healthy conversation that can teach us all something. So I'm looking forward to reading the rest of this book. I actually have an advanced copy. I don't know if she's going to let me keep this copy.
Oh, it's yours.
Oh, it's mine?
It's all yours.
Bet. And so I got to jump on a flight today. So I'm going to be reading this and supporting this amazing lady. And so I need y'all to do the same thing. All right. So listen, we're going to drop the book in today's show notes. So we're going to drop her Instagram and website as well, so y'all can go over there and subscribe to her show. She has an amazing podcast that I want y'all to check out. Check it out, support her, rock with her. She's family. She's at the table. And so I love you all. We'll see you all next show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Peace.